Is Patrick coming to us today from Mexico? Did he? He's laughing.
I don't think so.
Didn't you make the trip to Mexico for the game?
I did not. I was afraid of getting stopped and picked up by some van or something.
By drug agents, Patrick?
Hey, real quick, before we get to the Rockies, I want to chime into what you guys were just talking about. Yeah, my two pet peeves. One is exactly what you guys were talking about. Young reporters who say, talk about. I just want to strangle them. And it's mostly, a lot of them, it's broadcast people. And
Hey.
Well, hey, no, Les, you're a good questioner, but you know it's true.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And the other thing, and I've written about this before, is those sideline, especially in the NFL, reporters, it's usually some very good-looking woman who, at halftime, runs down the sidelines to get the inside scoop on the coach at halftime. Like, really, what's he going to tell you, please?
Nothing. He wants to dismiss you as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
Just like, I think Popovich has made it into an art form, though. He just what he does
embarrasses people.
Makes it funnier than anything else.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right.
Let's turn to the Rockies now that we've all vented here. Talk about the starting rotation.
Yeah, let's get to the crux of the problem here for the Rockies, Patrick. We only really know three guys who are in the starting rotation right now. Matzik, Kendrick, and Lyles. Other than that, the whole thing's a crapshoot. So, and Gray had a rough outing over the weekend, and somebody else had a rough outing. Bergman had a rough outing over the weekend. He's a candidate for a slot. What are they doing? What's going on?
Seriously, I think the reason they've waited this long to make any sort of announcements about opening day starter, or if they're going to go with 4 or 5 to start the season with De La Rosa out injured, is they're waiting for somebody to grab it and take the most of the opportunity. Nobody seems willing to do it. Eddie Butler is pitching here in Mesa today against the A's. I do think Butler is going to be in the rotation. I do think that Tyler Matzik is going to be the starter for the home opener. But guys, it's troubling because when spring training started, when they still had hopes that Chacin would make a comeback and De La Rosa would be healthy, the depth looked pretty good. And suddenly, it doesn't look good right now. And suddenly, they're scrambling to fill, Les, as you just said, the final 2 spots in the rotation. It's very troubling. Yeah. I think the bullpen has been better, but if this continues, the bullpen won't hold up. So I'm really getting a little discouraged down here.
Okay, give us an update. We know Chacin is gone. Has anybody called? I mean, you're not his agent, but I haven't seen anybody sign him, invited him to a minor league camp or anything. Are you a bit surprised by that?
I have been. I've been checking almost every day. The only thing I've heard, guys, is mostly rumbles from fans saying, "Oh, why don't we get Chacin?" And I've had some writers call me and say, "Why not? Why not Chacin here? Why not Chacin there?" And I think a lot of people, because the Rockies are so under the radar, are unaware of his shoulder problems from a year ago. The fact that nobody has scooped him up and even tried to sign him to a minor league deal tells you there's a lot of people out there very nervous about the state of his shoulder, and which is, of course, exactly why the Rockies let him go.
Well, yeah, but Patrick, there are scouts from other major league teams who watched him at the beginning of spring training and must realize that, number one, the history with the shoulder, and number two, his velocity is way down. I wouldn't pick him up. I'd be in tune with what's going on.
But you could sign him to a two-way deal, minor league. You don't have to sign him to that big contract anymore. Let's turn to De La Rosa, who is still here. But what is your prognostication on how long he's still going to be bothered? Because in the past, when he's had finger problems, you don't know whether he's coming back for his next start, or when he's been tweaked a little bit with an injury, sometimes he has to miss 2 or 3 starts. Yeah.
My guess, guys, is, well, we know he's out for the home opener. That's for sure. They haven't officially put him on the DL. I expect that they will eventually, and they'll make it retro so he misses as little time as possible. I'm thinking he's going to miss at least 3 starts to begin the season. Wow. Because yes, the groin is getting better, but he hasn't built up his arm. My guess is he's going to probably stay down here for extended spring, maybe make 2 starts down here when he gets healthy. They'll send him out to pitch for Albuquerque or whoever has the best chance of good weather, and then maybe after those 3 starts, he'd be ready to rejoin the rotation. But it's going to be late April, mid to late April, before he's back in the rotation.
So Patrick, is it possible, because they won't need a fifth starter until the end of April, is it possible they open with 4 starters and just add another bullpen arm? Because, man, they are going to need bullpen arms.
Yeah, that's very, very possible. They're already planning to go with 8. And if they go with 4 starters and 8 in the bullpen, that gives them one more guy on the bench to help them out early. But it's, the rest of the team, guys, I got to tell you, and you guys know this, the rest of the team has really looked very good this spring. It's just the starting rotation is hurting. And the one guy who I thought, is certainly no star and was certainly a 4 or 5, was David Hale, the guy they picked up.
Well, I was going to bring him up, yeah.
Yeah, but now he has a strained oblique, and I talked to him today, and he's playing catch, and that's it. And he's probably as far behind as De La Rosa is. He's really bummed about it because he really thought this was his chance to break into the starting rotation. He looks around at these other guys who are really not grabbing the opportunity, and he's thinking, "Wow, this was my shot, but I can't do anything because I'm hurt."
That's what's troubling to me when looking at these injuries. That you've been a prominent beat writer for both the Broncos and the Rockies, and when you see injuries start to happen, it's almost like the flu in the clubhouse, where it just seems
contagious.
Seems to mount, and that's the biggest issue that we've had. That's the biggest excuse the Rockies make, is they have injury problems. Well, here we go again with injury problems with the starting rotation. They went through how many? What was it? 13 guys last year.
15 in the starting rotation.
Yeah.
The most Woody since '93, their inaugural year.
And Cargo too now with a bothersome knee. So I'm reading you all weekend in the Post, Patrick, and it sounds like at least Cargo is saying, and the trainers are saying, not a big deal. What are you seeing now? Is it a big deal? Is he going to be out there in time for opening day?
Oh yeah, he's out. He's playing
Okay.
today. Actually, he's fine.
Okay, good.
I actually had I probably talked to Cargo the other day for close to half an hour about a variety of things. And he admitted that when that knee, it was last Friday night, when that knee barked at him a little bit, it scared him. Because it was the left knee, the one that's been surgically repaired. And he said he had a flash of fear, no question. But then he sat down with trainer Keith Duggar, and they realized, 1, it was not in the place where the surgery occurred. 2, he had felt some wear and tear and fatigue coming on, and he felt perfectly fine the next day. As Cargo said, and I thought it was kind of a funny quote, he said, "I have to treat my knee as if I've had Tommy John surgery on the knee." I mean, that's kind of his outlook. In other words, he's not 25 anymore, even though he's still a young player, but I'm going to have to make sure I do my stretching, my icing. In other words, he's going to have to take care of his body better than he ever did in the past, and I think he understands that now.
Let's go back to one more pitcher, because I was fascinated, as you know, by him last year, and I'm pulling for him. I pull for individuals. Eddie Butler, I really like the kid. He's had a lot of publicity precede him, but do you feel like this is a different Eddie Butler than the guy we came to see last year that came up briefly and wasn't very good and seemed to didn't have his confidence and got hurt?
I do. He's actually pitching here in, 15, 20 minutes from game time. He's pitching today. I think, my opinion is, I think Eddie Butler opens the season in the starting rotation. I really do, unless he flames out today. But you're exactly right, Woody. I remember last year you came down and you and Eddie probably talked. I remember you guys sitting on the couch and chatting. You guys probably talked for close to an hour. And he's a delightful young kid, and he's funny. He has a lot of other interests, and he's talented. But he did lose his confidence. He did lose his composure last year. He'd never been through what he went through with the shoulder and getting beat around. And truthfully, I think it shook him. But he's the kind of kid who bounces back. He's got good stuff. He's got that good sinker, which is perfect for what the Rockies want. I'm not predicting great things for him this season, but I do think he's going to be with the team the majority of the year. And maybe by middle of summer or something, maybe he becomes a really effective pitcher. I'm crossing my fingers because, just like you, Woody, he's a really cool young man.
If we can do this short time, you've got to go off to go work, and we appreciate you coming on with us as always, Patrick. And he's got one of the most unusual Twitter handles in the world, so you have to, at home, write this Twitter handle down. How do they get in touch with you?
Twitter is P Saunders DP.
That's pretty. I would like to ask you about the two R's, Rex and Raphael.
Okay.
Are we going to see the two guys who have closed for the Rockies in the past at times? What is that? Because you kind of gave us not a good update a couple of days ago that Rex kind of faltered a little bit, and Raphael is trying his best to make a comeback.
Yeah, I think Rocky makes the club. I don't know what role, certainly not the closer, but he's been good enough to be back of the bullpen guy. He's throwing some decent velocity. He's got actually a better changeup now than he did before he had Tommy John. So I think Rocky makes the club. In what role, I'm not sure. Rex is troubling still because he's looked really good at times, and he's looked very much like he did last year when he throwing that breaking ball about 2-3 feet in front of the plate and throwing wild pitches and some frustration. I've talked to a bunch of people about it, and they think it's more of a feel thing than anything else. But it's worrisome because they need Rex as a lefty in that bullpen.
Patrick, might he not make the squad?
No, you know what? I don't think they do that now, Les, because for this reason. I think where he's at now, for them to send him down, because he still has options, so they could send him down to AAA. But to do that to him now, I think would be the wrong move, and I think the Rockies know that. I think it would be a jolt to his confidence, which is what he's trying to find again. Now, having said that, if he continues to struggle early in the season, yes, they'll send him down for a tune-up.
Yeah, we've spent a good 15 minutes talking about the Rockies, primarily about the pitching. We could probably spend another 15 hours talking about the pitching woes.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
During the year.
So, Patrick, I need to ask this. We know how bad it is. They know how bad it is. So is there any hint of them making any move whatsoever, trying to deal for some pitching before the season starts?
I have not heard a whisper.
Okay.
I have not. Now, on the national scene, I've heard national guys who follow every team. I've heard them saying that they anticipate over the next week or so a lot of movement because there's a lot of contending type teams that are missing pieces, and that means they may try to find those pieces. Whether the Rockies are involved or not, I don't think so.
Well, Patrick, if they do make a deal for some decent pitching, you have to give up something decent in return.
Right.
Who might the Rockies dangle as trade bait to get some decent pitching?
And we know who Les thinks it should be.
Yeah, who is that, Les?
Well, I think it should be Charlie Blackmon along with Rosario. I think you might need to package some players.
That could be the case, although people I've talked to down here, I talked to a reporter the other day who was convinced that the Rockies and White Sox are very close to a deal in the offseason for Rosario, and the Rockies were just asking too much in return, which is the same old story
Typical.
we always hear.
Yeah.
The Charlie Blackmon thing, I think it had more legs in the offseason less than it does now, and I'll tell you why. Charlie, he's having a good, solid camp. He's a good young player. Not that he shouldn't be traded, but the problem is Drew Stubbs has been horrendous this spring. He has 23 strikeouts and 41 at-bats
Wow.
this spring. And if you take him out of the picture, really the only other options you have in center field in that vast, expansive Coors would be Stubbs, if you trade Charlie, or maybe Brandon Barnes, who can't hit right now either, or Cargo, and they don't want to do that with Cargo. And there's not really somebody in the pipeline ready to come up and fill it. So Charlie seems like the best trade option because people would want him, but I'm not sure, given their depth in the outfield, that they can afford to do that right now.
Wow, that's
See,
all,
I think that's short-sighted thinking. I give up something in the lineup to get some pitching.
It's so amazing, and I promise I'll let you go, but it's so amazing that all of those young hitters that they had in the minor leagues, and you're sitting here telling me that they don't have one of them. I mean, Corey came up last year, Dickerson, but you'd think there'd be somebody else of the group that draft and develop philosophy.
Yeah, well, you know what? They do have some really good young talent, but it's not major league ready. We're talking Double-A right now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, a lot of that pitching isn't major league ready, but it might end up in the major leagues.
Enjoy Mesa. So the A's, for people who might not know, the A's moved into the Cubs' old place.
Hohokam,
didn't
yeah.
Yeah, Hohokam. Now you guys wouldn't recognize it now. I mean, it looks the same basically. It's kind of that old 1950s style ballpark, but now it's green and gold everywhere.
Patrick, I was the public
like a giant A's uniform.
I was the public address announcer at Hohokam for 3 years.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Something we didn't know. I mean, he must have disappeared under the radar for 3 years, and we didn't
Couldn't
notice
make a
it.
career out of that.
And let's hope
$50 a game.
When you said that Eddie Butler's starting today, I hope he didn't drive his car over and do like another pitcher did in the last week or so and go to the wrong ballpark.
Patrick,
that would not be good.
Thanks, man. We always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's
Bye-bye.
Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post, who covers the Colorado Rockies and the rest of Major League Baseball. And that segment was sponsored by John Elway Chevrolet, Colorado's #1 Chevy dealer.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on elwaydealers.com.